Hello friends, Jai Shri Ram. Today we are going to see how a PI planning meeting takes place. So a PI planning meeting in SAFE is typically of 2 days. This is day 1, this is day 2. I'm going to run through every event in detail. So your day 1 starts with the 3 briefings that we also talked about in the last video, if you remember. That is the context readiness, if you remember. So in context readiness, there are these 3 meetings, right? Executive briefing, product vision briefing, and architectural vision briefing. So the same thing is going to happen at the beginning of your PI planning. Either you can consider this as a part of PI planning, or you can consider this as a part of PI planning readiness. Okay, so either ways, this happens on day 1. This is the first thing that happens. So your executive briefing given by your business owner happens for 1 hour, as I explained in my previous video. Then product vision briefing happens for 1.5 hours, and then architectural vision briefing happens for 1 hour. For all these 3 briefings, please refer to my previous video. I've given examples also, and I've explained it in great detail over there. Now going ahead, after that, your RTE basically explains the planning context to the art. See, whenever there is PI planning meeting, then it is being conducted with the entire art. So all the teams within the art, along with other stakeholders and art level, that means program level positions, like for example your RTE, then your system architect or system engineer, that kind of people, or your program manager or your business owner, that kind of art level positions, and other stakeholders also, all of them do attend this particular meeting, because there is an art level meeting. Okay, there is a program level meeting. So all the program level positions people and all the teams which come under that particular program attend this particular meeting. Now it is normally like 50 to 125 people make an art. Okay, so RTE will first explain to these 50 to 125 people that how is this PI planning meeting is going to be conducted. So he or she is just going to explain it, that what we are going to do for the rest of this day and for the next day. Okay, so that is called as planning context. It does take around 45 minutes, and then 45 minutes are left for your lunch. So total 1.5 hours. After that, there is something called as team breakout session. So the teams don't even assemble back. They actually go out for a breakout session, and this lasts for 1 hour. Now what is this team breakout session? In team breakout session, guys, basically every team picks up the stories which are explained in these particular 10 features. Okay, so I'll give a brief recap of what happens in these 3 briefings. Ideally you should see the last video for that, but I'll give a brief recap. Let us say that in this particular PI, we are going to work upon 10 features. The first 5 features belong to capability number 1, next 3 features belong to capability number 2, and next 2 features belong to capability number 3. So there are 3 capabilities, 1, 2 and 3. First capability has 5 features, second has 3 features, third has 2 features. So total we are working on 10 features. Okay, so that is how we are planning this particular PI. Now in the executive briefing, business owner has explained those 3 capabilities. In product vision briefing, your program manager explained those 3 capabilities only, but at the feature level. That means he is explaining those 10 individual features that make up those 3 capabilities. Okay, and then architectural vision briefing, basically the system architect or system engineer is going to explain the architectural runway and how we are going to maintain it in this particular PI. So what is architectural runway? So you can always click on this and this page will open, and the very first thing given on this page is architectural runway consists of existing code, components and technical infrastructure needed for the implementation of near-term features without excessive redesign or delay. So I'll just explain in short what is architectural runway. I think I explained it in one of the other videos as well, but I'm explaining it again. See, when a basic agile team is working, then mostly there is not much of a requirement for consistency. Okay, because there's only one team. Okay, so they are always consistent. There's one team. What is the requirement of consistency, man? They'll always work in the same way. But let us say there are now 10 teams in an art. So at the art level, there needs to be some consistency. Okay, so all the teams should code in a particular way. they should respect a particular architectural runway. That means how the architecture of the project is going to be, they should all respect it. Okay, so there needs to be some consistency, and that is why the system architect at the program level is one only. So that system architect creates an architectural runway. So he makes a couple of rules like, okay, let us use microservice architecture. So all your service APIs will be microservices. That means they are individually deployable. That means you make a separate Git repository for every little API, and they can be independently redeployed. Okay, so redeploying one API should not require the deployment of the entire product. Okay, so that is microservice architecture. So this is a point which is made compulsory in your architectural runway. So now any other team is not going to say that, okay, I am not using that microservice architecture, I have one service only and it's humongous, it takes 2 hours to deploy. No, your service should take less than 15 minutes to deploy. How you do it is up to you. You create smaller services, you break it down into smaller pieces, but it should be small. Okay, so that kind of an architecture means you have like 100, 150 APIs only. Okay, that is called as microservice. They are micro, the services are really micro. You are not going to say that, okay, there is one API which has a lot of endpoints. No, not many endpoints. Let us say 10 to 15 endpoints, more than enough, not more than that. Otherwise, make another API out of it. That is microservice architecture. Okay, so that is a part of your architectural runway. Every team has to respect that. Okay, that is point number 1. Point number 2, let us say even these microservices are divided into various categories. Like whichever services the UI directly speaks to, those are called as PAPIs, let us say, process APIs. I'm just giving any names. It's not very academic, but I'm just giving examples. Let us call them process APIs. So they will be used directly by the UI. Those process APIs will not do any work. They will only pass on the variables or pass on those particular values to the next set of services, which is service APIs, which is basically doing actual database work. All the CRUD operations will be done by the service APIs. Okay, not by the PAP. PAPIs only speak to the UI, nothing more. Okay, it is just like an interface to the UI, nothing more. Most of the changes, most of the real life things will be done by the SAPIs. And SAPIs you won't make over and over again. Okay, so I'll tell you reason for this. For every little page, I'm not going to create a separate column in a database. Never, you never do that. So you have a set of columns, and now how do you use those particular columns from various tables? You have service APIs for doing that. Now you for your own little requirement, you might have to call multiple SAPIs, do that. But you don't change the SAPI. Because if you change the SAPIs, then I'll have to retest the entire system, and it's a huge pain for everybody to test it, and then some bugs may be left which will make it very inconsistent. You won't have confidence on the product if more and more defects keep coming. So you keep the SAPIs near about constant, but you keep modifying your PAPIs for that. Okay, so if you make a mistake in the PAPI, it's not a big deal. The PAPIs nobody even cares about. Okay, because your feature only is going to get affected by your particular PAPI. All the teams are not going to get affected, but if a SAPI changes and if some bug is introduced into it, then that SAPI is being used by 10 other teams, all of them will get affected for no reason, and all of them, or their time is also going to get spent into that. They'll have to debug, and finally they'll come to know that nothing is on my part, actually the SAPI is not working. So it will waste everybody's time. So we don't change the SAPIs, we only change our own PAPIs, so that if there's a mistake, we are just compartmentalizing your mistakes. Your mistakes are your mistakes, you take care of them, that's it. Do not affect all the other teams due to your mistakes. Okay, that's how it is. So that is let us say a part of it. So having PAPIs and having SAPIs, this is just a style which a coding style which my architect is enforcing. Okay, and that coding style is again another point in my architectural runway. So any kind of a coding style which my architect wants to enforce on all the teams, that is called as your architectural runway. For more details, go through this particular page. This is from scaleagileframework.com. So of course I'll give the links in the description, go through them. Now this was your executive briefing, product vision briefing, architectural vision briefing. So in the architectural vision briefing, basically the architect is going to let you know that how these 10 features will be implemented, keeping in mind that particular architectural runway. Okay. Now there is planning context, wherein the RTE is going to explain to the entire art how we are going to conduct this particular PI planning meeting. So due to this only, many people say that these 3 briefings in the beginning are not a part of PI planning meeting. Okay, why they are not a part of PI planning? Because anyways they happen before even the team knows about the planning context. So they are in a way PI planning readiness. They are not actually PI planning meetings. So PI planning meeting starts from 1 PM onwards. That is what many people say. It's up to you what you want to consider. But even in the material, they have given these 3 steps also in day 1's activities, and they have also in PI planning readiness also they explain these things, that how do you prepare for a PI planning. So they have given these 3 things. So it's up to you how you want to consider it. I normally think it is a gray area or howsoever. I mean it depends upon the way you look at it. Okay, so different people have different perspectives. I respect all of them. Now team breakout session. So after this planning context is explained by the RTE, he normally takes around 45 minutes to explain it, and then 45 minutes are given for your lunch. Okay, after lunch the team doesn't, all the art teams don't sit together on the same call. No. Art teams, now individual agile teams into that art now separate out. Okay, and they work for around 3 hours. It is 3 hours. By mistake I've written here 1 hour, my bad. I'm changing it right in front of you, so it's a rare event where you will see such changes happening right in front of you. Okay, for 3 hours you are going to work on this, and I'll also underline it more. See, if there is more amount of time for a meeting, then I normally underline it more number of times. So I'll give it 5 underlines, because this is the longest period that you have in these 2 days. There is the longest amount of period. Okay, so there's longest amount of time, 3 hours. Other than that, there's 2 hours. So there's the second longest amount of time. So 2 hours. This is just 1 hour, 1.5 hours, and even 15 minutes. Okay, so now in team breakout session number 1, all the agile teams are sitting separately. Okay, and they will basically decide that which stories they are going to pick up. Okay, so out of all these 10 features which I explained to them, all these every feature will have, let us say, 2-3 stories. Okay, 2-3-5 stories, that kind of stories. So if your team is picking up around 2 features, then those 2 features could be having, let us say, 15 stories into them. Okay, so those 15 stories, how you will deliver them. So first 3 stories you will deliver in first iteration, second 4 stories you are going to deliver, next 4 stories you are going to deliver in iteration 2, then let us say 3 more, then 4 more, something like that. So if you're going to do something like that, then that is called as your team breakout session. So you basically decide internally within your team that what stories you are going to pick, or your team is going to pick in that particular in all those 4 iterations in this particular PI. So this PI will consist of 4 dev iterations and 1 IP iteration, like any other PI. Okay, so how will you do it? You do it in Rally or in Jira, some tool. Okay, so in normally how you do it is, you go to the portfolio tab. Here you see all the features. You can also see if you expand the feature, then you will see various stories under it. Normally you drag and drop the stories only. Feature automatically takes the span depending upon which where you complete the stories. So here you can first of all select your particular team. So here I have not selected a team here, but you can first select your team, and after that you can drag and drop in various iterations. So these are the 4 iterations that you are going to pick up. So in these particular 4 iterations, you are just going to drag and drop your stories. Same thing every other team is going to do. Okay, so if you are doing it, everyone knows that okay, your team has picked up that story. Okay, so people won't pick up the same story again. And normally teams work in their own little space. That means, let us say my team normally works with payments. The next team probably works on let us say the users. So whatever user roles are there, whatever permissions the users have, whether the user is a staff or a client, that kind of things one other team does. Next team does, how that product is listed on the website, how those products are sorted, how those are filtered. There must be some filter. So normally that kind of stories are done by some other team, or there could be 2-3 teams working on that particular thing because it's a bigger thing. Then there could be another one which works only with one other set. Let us say something similar. I mean, you get the idea now. So your team normally picks up payment related stories, right? So nobody will anyways pick up that kind of stories. They'll leave it for you. Now let us say in the product listing kind of a scenario, there could be 3-4 teams working. So there the scrum masters, the product owners, they already have the art sync meeting every week, right? So they are anyways thinking about which stories my team should pick, which stories your team should pick, okay, that kind of thing. So it's already done. But anyways, if any one team picks any story, then it is visible to everyone else. They can immediately take the objection, then they can say, oh please, can I take that one? Okay. But normally those it's understandable that all your communication won't go through, because although you have 3 hours to do this, you might not be able to discuss all the dependencies and everything. Like, okay, this story which team A is doing, it is dependent on another story that team B is doing. So team B, let us say this payments team, has to complete this particular piece before the fulfillment team can do this particular story. Okay. So if that is the case, then how will you track those dependencies, and how will you see to it that payment teams completes everything that is required for this particular feature to be picked up by a fulfillment team. Okay, so that kind of thing happens in the next meeting, which is called as draft plan review. So here all the art teams come back together and they start discussing, what are the dependencies and will they get sorted out, and let us move around the stories a bit just to see to it. See, like payments team, suppose it is going to work on feature 9 in both these iterations, or here in this case all the 3 iterations. I'll just say, being fulfillment team, I'll say, you pick those stories early which I require in feature 11. Okay, you pick those stories earlier and you try to complete them if possible in the very first week itself. Otherwise you do them at least till the end of this iteration. You should have done them. Then I'll be able to pick those stories, the dependent stories in the next iteration. Okay, so that is what I'll request them, and every other team can request every other team in a similar fashion, and finally one draft review will be created. So as soon as you deselect your team, then this becomes your program board. The same thing becomes your program board, because now you are seeing all the teams here. You haven't selected just one team, you have selected all the teams. Okay, so this becomes your program board. Now in draft plan review, the entire art looks at that program board, and then they see, okay, this is not possible, this depends on that, these all stories must be completed in this particular iteration only, and please move them forward, front load those stories. So that kind of activities happen over here. A lot of discussion happens, but normally it does end within this 1 hour window. It ends within 1 hour because even in this team breakout session also, informally, I'll tell you, informally Scrum Masters do discuss here and there. They keep saying, okay, array, this, give us this story first, do this, do that, please try to adjust that. And normally even team lead level also, normally people have this communication. They already know, even before this PI planning meeting also, they know, they have something in their mind, ki, you have to complete this part first and then I'll be able to complete. Main thing that they do in the team breakout session is just to see whether this team is going to pick up all the stories and their capacity adjusts or not. That is the main thing that they are actually doing in this particular team breakout session. Okay, so there are very few problems that come during the draft plan review, but they mostly come due to capacity only. Okay, so a real life problem. So I don't have, let us say payments team does not have API capacity. Featured fulfillment team or shopping team probably has some surplus API capacity in iteration 5. and fulfillment team requires that API story to be done in this particular iteration only. So what they'll do, now there is a very tailor-made solution, but many a times it happens that fulfillment team will say that, okay, I require that story very much in the next by the starting of the next iteration. So you take these two API people, you take them for 2 days and please get it done, give it to us. Or alternatively, you give those 2 stories to us, although they are related to payment, we will do it, no problem. Our API developers will work under the guidance of your API lead. We will get everything reviewed by that lead, but let's complete that story. So that kind of permutation combinations are worked out in draft plan review. These are real life situations. This is how the draft plan review actually happens. Of course, if you ask by book, is it good to loan out resources? No, it is not good, because then your team is not consistent. All your team matrices will look fluctuating all the time, so you cannot guess how the team is doing over the time. Of course, you should not loan out resources, but loaning out resources is a reality. You do it, probably many people do it all the time. Should it be done as per the book? No, it should not be done. Team should be consistent. But is it not done? It is done. Then okay, even if you don't do it, even if you are a little better, then probably you will pick up the stories. Okay, now if if fulfillment team's developer is picking that story and it is getting reviewed by this payment team's API lead, is that a best practice? It's not a best practice, but this is what happens in reality. Okay. So that kind of things happen in draft plan review. Okay, then next 1 hour what happens is management review and problem solving. So of course you can understand that there are this kind of issues which come, that it is absolutely impossible that all those stories will get covered by payments team or any other team. Even if you loan out the resources, then also all these stories won't get completed and we won't be able to start feature 11 from iteration 6 onwards. And if that is the case, then probably feature 11 will have to be picked in iteration 7 only. Then how will fulfillment team alone do it? Then we require some other team to help that team to complete that feature, because it's a humongous feature. So we need to do that. So that kind of things. Or maybe then what will we do, then what will this fulfillment team do in iteration 6? Then it has no work, so maybe that team's work will be given to this team. That kind of activities, if they don't happen at the draft plan review, if everything is not sorted out, then there's one more meeting. Mostly the entire art is not expected to stay there. Art leaves at 5 p.m, go home. Management sits. What is management? Management means the scrum masters, your product owners, your RTE, your program manager, your business owner. These people, of course with all the BAs, that people, they all stay. If required, the team leads are also asked to stay, but individual members go away. Okay, and the management basically reviews. This is what we are calling as management. They review. What is this draft plan? Is it going to work? It doesn't look like it is going to work. Okay, it's not going to work, then why? These are the challenges. What do we do about these challenges? Move people around, do something, but get this done, get this draft working. That is what management does. Okay, just scratching the heads and trying to make things work. Okay, that is the life of management. Often it doesn't work within 1 hour, but yeah, if all the minds are put in and people don't get into unnecessary conflicts, unnecessary arguments, then it can complete in 1 hour. After that, management also goes home. Okay, but they have discussed everything. Everything is there in their mind. The next day, what happens? Next day, everybody comes back. The entire art is sitting together. Now that management says, management has to explain whatever they discussed yesterday in that last 1 hour. Everybody else had gone home, right? Only management was sitting there. Now that management explains them what they discussed and finally what is the solution that they reached. So that is conveyed by the management to the entire art. That is called as planning adjustment. This can get completed within 1 hour. It is very much possible. Then after that, there is once more there is team breakout session 2. Now this is only for 2 hours. It is not for 3 hours like the earlier one. Earlier team breakout session in day 1 was 3 hours. Now this is only 2 hours. Why? Because not much adjustment has to be done. Adjustment is only this adjustment which management has just explained to you. So only a couple of teams will be affected due to it. Okay, and even they can understand what all changes are there. So it's understandable. So only 2 hours are given. And once again, every team once again selects this filter, that my team, okay, and in my team, okay, what am I doing, okay, is it going to fit into my capacity, is it going to work out, okay, overall. See, here also, you know, we are just trying to guess whether it's going to work or not. We are not going to see, you know, every day's capacity and is it going to fit day in and day out, is it going to, no, we don't look into that detail as well, but overall, yeah, it's manageable, we can get it done. Overall, the dependencies are resolved, we can get the stories delivered in those particular iterations. That is what the teams see in team breakout session number 2. After that, once again the art comes back and they now once again discuss on the plan review. So if you remember, the draft plan review was discussed only for 1 hour, but this final plan review is now discussed for 2 hours. Why? Because now this is the final one. Okay, so you have to see positively how it works. What is the plan? Look at each and every little thing. Let us say explain those things over and over again to each other, that okay, you have to complete this so that we can complete this, and for that you are borrowing these resources, or doing this, doing that, whatever. Explain it one by one once again and see whether all the pieces are in place. Okay, if you want to get any surprise, then that surprise should come at this point, not after you have started the PI. Okay, so you try to search for surprises and try to see positively that okay, this is what we are going to do, think about it, say to yourself that okay, we'll first do this, then we'll do that, then this will happen, then that will happen. That is how you do it. Positively you will run through the entire thing, how you will execute this particular, how you will work in this particular PI. Okay, that is positive thinking. So for 2 hours you will think positive, and of course you'll also go for lunch. That is also a very positive thing to do. After that, after coming back from lunch, you will do program risks. So here what you will do is, now you will think negatively. Till now you were thinking positively, everything will work, this will happen, then that will happen, this way. Now you will think okay, what can go wrong? For 1 hour you will think only what will go wrong, and then is this particular plan taking care of those things that may go wrong. Okay, so that is what you will do in program risks. Okay, for 1 hour you will do this. So for 2 hours you think positively, for 1 hour, that too after lunch, so you are in a happy mood. At that time you think negatively so that you don't go too negative. And then there is confidence voting. So this confidence voting happens only for 15 minutes. Of course it is done on a tool like Rally or Jira or some other tool. So here basically, or even Slido is good for that. Yeah, just create a poll in Slido and ask people to just give that poll. Okay, anything is okay. So in the confidence vote, what happens is, all the members of the art, who are the members of art? All the teams. Every team has Scrum Master, Product Owner, your individual developers, QAs, your everybody. Okay, all those people plus program level people. That means your RT, your program manager, your business owner, all those kind of people, plus some stakeholders. All these people who make the art, that means 50 to 125 people, they all vote, of course programmatically, because if you take the voting individually then it's impossible to do it within 15 minutes. So in 15 minutes they do vote. Okay, and those votes are from 1, means I will be voting from 1 to 5. If I have 100% confidence that this final plan is going to work, then I'll vote 5. If I'm very skeptical, if I think that okay, it's not going to work, I'm very confident that it is not going to work, then I'll say 1. I won't say 0, I'll say 1. Okay, so 1 means no confidence in the plan, 5 means full confidence in the plan. Okay, now that is your confidence voting. In the confidence voting, if the average voting If I add the votes of all the 50 to 125 people and divide it by the number of people, then it will be the average vote. On an average, every person in the art, how much did he or she vote? So that average voting, let us say it is more than 3. That means on an average, the art is confident that this plan is going to work. So then it is okay. Then we directly jump to planning retrospective and moving forward. If it doesn't happen, then that means if the confidence vote is lesser than 3, then we understand that most of the people in the art are not confident about this plan. So we go for a plan rework. Now plan rework means, once again, management will try to find out some answers. Means people will be asked that why are you not confident about it. Whosoever voted less, they will all be asked, or most of them will be asked, that what is there. Means a chance will be given to everyone. Like people will note down excuse me, that this is not going to work, that is not going to work. Okay, what do you feel? Okay, that is also not going to work. They'll list out all those things, and at the end they'll say, okay, now are all the points noted down? Is there anyone else who has any point other than these? If all of them are noted down, and then the management will again review it and once again try to solve it. This time the management does it in front of everyone. Okay, this time we don't say ki everybody else chutti, you can go home. No, nothing like that. You stay there, you all plan together, and some problem solving happens. This doesn't take very long, because normally there are 2-3 things that people are skeptical about, and let us say if those stories are front loaded in the earlier iterations, then most people are happy. Okay, so how to do that? Mostly it is by borrowing of resources, which is not a very good practice, but something like that. So that does happen, and it is easy to solve. Okay, so this plan rework happens. Now it can extend up to 1 hour, up to half an hour only, up to 1.5 hours also, I don't know. So that is why there's a question mark. Even in the material, if you see, it is a question mark there as well. Okay, after this, again the management will explain the same thing. Actually this thing happens in front of the art, so you don't have to explain it again, but okay, you can go ahead and formally explain them again. Once again, all the teams will recheck whether everything is fine for them, and then once again they'll give a final draft review. So once again, now this is not going to take 2 hours, now this is also not going to take 2 hours, it will take lesser time, but all these steps will happen once again. Once again, the program risks will be discussed. Now what do you think with this plan? Do you still think there are any risks, or there are some different risks? Then let us know. And then finally there is a confidence vote again. Now this time hopefully the art votes on an average more than 3 or more than 3. If they don't, then once again you go for a plan rework. Once again the same cycle repeats. It keeps repeating unless and until your confidence vote is 3 or more than 3. Okay, so after this, let us say at some point of time you have a good confidence in the plan. After that, what happens? Now time is again not given, because you don't know when that will happen. So whenever all this is fine and this final plan is approved, you can say, or accepted by everybody, then you go for a planning retrospective and moving forward. So planning retrospective means what? So even this planning meeting is huge, right? It takes 2 days and all this. So even here there can be some feedback that should be taken, right? So this planning meeting was organized by whom? It was organized by the RTE. So RTE takes the feedback from the entire ad. Okay, what went well, what did not go well, and what can be done better the next time. Just like your basic retrospective meeting in every team level. Similarly, RTE will say that you tell me, how did this planning meeting go? He is not asking about how did the previous PI go. He is only asking about how did this planning meeting go? Did it go well? Or okay, there was some network issue. Oh, you could not vote. Oh, so many things. He will ask that kind of things. He won't ask how the first PI went. No, he is not asking that. He is only asking about how these 2 days went for you. Oh, there was sitting problem. Oh, we should be booking those conference room earlier in time. Huh? We will take care of it next time. That kind of simple things are noted down. Okay, and action items are noted down. Okay, this particular location has a location crunch. So next time, let us book this. Because all these PIs, they are only of 2 weeks. So you know when the next PI planning is going to come. So for that day, you book the this thing right away. I mean, you book the conference rooms right away for that location, because there are a lot of location or conference room crunch. It has very little conference rooms and that kind of things. Second thing, let us say, okay, if the internet is not good, or let us say we took a long amount of time during the team breakout sessions, or let us say in the draft reviews, draft plan review or final plan review, we went into a lot of discussions, we went into almost fighting with each other. So don't do that again, you know, be civil. Another feedback could be that, you know, we keep discussing a lot on how we will do it. Stop doing that. What has to be done, that is more than enough, because there's already a huge discussion. Don't try to involve how we will do it. This how is only to be answered to up to architectural runway kind of level. Don't discuss every little thing. This story requires this thing, okay, then I'll do this, then I'll do that. Don't do that. Okay, it takes a lot of time. So your team breakout session, 3 hours were also insufficient for you, you know, team XYZ. Stop getting into too many details. Okay, and then team XYZ also asked a lot of questions during draft plan review. So I won't point out, or as an RT, people won't point out that, okay, this team is really bad. No, people will normally say, okay, all the teams in general, you know, try to think at a higher level only. Don't get into too many details, because we are in PI planning. We are just planning about the PI. Okay, so that kind of feedbacks are taken, and finally we will just move forward with the plan, because this plan is now approved by everyone. So now we move forward with the plan. Okay, so this is all that happens during your PI planning meeting. It does take 2 days, but those 2 days are fun. If you have any questions, do ask me. Also refer to the description. Further reading and everything I'll just give in the video description. Until next time, this is Amit signing off. Jai Shri Ram.